other hearing I'll go to, whether it's a high profile defendant or not, they enter from, the jury box, let's say, because they're coming in from wherever they're busting from, Rikers. In Luigi Mangione's case, it's MDC. And it's normally the jury box, they kind of creep in, they sit at the table, and that's that. Luigi Mangione, as you know, he walks in through the hallway in front of press, in front of women and men who were there all night waiting for him. They are giving everybody their shot. They are giving everybody the money shot of Luigi Mangione. And it's obvious. This is for the media and for the press, in my opinion. They are making a huge spectacle and show of Luigi. And it's to me, it's very apparent, just because I cover so many cases where things are very, very different.
And when he is there, obviously there is media, there are sort of the legal people who are there, the attorneys, maybe some family, but he also has this sort of weird clique of supporters who are there as well. I mean, people who wear t-shirts, people who are sort of like outward supporters of his who are there, who are in the courtroom. Is that right?
Yes. And last time I was there, I spoke to a girl who told me she waited 30 hours. And, this was back in September. It wasn't as cold. It was certainly dark. She waited 30 hours to get into the courtroom. She did get in. I want to say last time in the gallery, there was probably 4 rows of supporters, give or take. But I'll tell you what, when he walked out, Mangione walked out of the courtroom, I felt like he gave them what they wanted. He looked a bunch of them in the eye. And I was like, oh man, the ones he locked eyes with, that's going to keep them going until the next hearing. That's going to get them to donate more money to his defense. So again, in my opinion, he knows what he's doing.
And here we are at this next hearing. What's at stake here for both sides at this hearing?
Oh, Dan, this is so important. And I don't think people realize how important this is. These suppression hearings, which we're told are going to take days, are going to determine which evidence will eventually be presented to the jury. And this really stems on the backpack that he was found with when he was arrested, captured at the Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's. Now, we've heard, or I've heard, experts from the start saying, ooh, I don't know if that search, the backpack search, is necessarily going to be lawful. Well, that's exactly what the defense is saying. The defense is saying you violated our client's Fourth Amendment right, and therefore everything in that backpack should not be admissible in court. Not only that, but during these discussions, I think it was last week, maybe the 25th, the defense submitted a motion that when they are discussing the items in the backpack, before a ruling is made on what's to be shown, they don't even want the contents of the notebook being read out loud. They don't even want the notebook being called a manifesto. They're saying if for whatever reason, words from the notebook gets out and there will be a ruling that it's not going to be admissible, that will still be damage done. And so once the media prints those words, a potential jury pool could hear it. And they're saying that's not fair. So there's a lot at stake. There's the 3D printed gun in that backpack, the homemade silencer. Again, I can't call it the manifesto I get. I'll listen to the defense there, but the notebook, and there's a couple other pieces of writing as well.
Conlon. That was Lauren Conlon with LA Magazine. We appreciate her insight on this case, and she's actually in the courtroom right now. So I wanted to touch base with her earlier before she went in there because I knew it was going to be crowded and difficult. Look at this guy right here. You see the photographer right there? He's going to be our key, everybody, okay? Because when this guy looks to his left, when he turns that Canon camera down the hallway, that's when we know there's going to be some action. But right now he's looking in the other direction. Oh, there we go. He's looking in the other direction, so I think we're going to be okay. But you know what? And we do have a lot of people who are tuned in on our YouTube channel right now. And we know that this can be kind of a community of people who, it's like a chat room. So people talk, people put out opinions. And so one of the things that you heard Lauren talking about there, Lauren Conlon with LA Magazine, was the supporters of Mangione who are there. And so one of the big reasons why they have so much sort of security and why there are these steps that are being taken of who gets let in and who does not is because there are a large contingent of Mangione supporters who end up in the courtroom. So let's take a look at one of those comments. That comment is right here. It says, "I believe this case is bigger than one man. It is not about Luigi. It is about the violent healthcare system that forces many into bankruptcy or illness or death." Now, part of what is in this manifesto or this diary, so to speak, are words along those lines, allegedly, that Mangione wrote and was a reason potentially why this crime was carried out. Again, that's part of the accusations, but it is part of the reason why the defense wants this evidence thrown out. They say it was obtained illegally, but getting more to the heart of what that comment is there, that these are a lot of people in this country who believe that this was some kind of justice killing, so to speak. Now, prosecutors will tell you this is nothing more than a stone cold murder, and that this is someone who cannot take vigilante justice because that's not the way that's not the way America works. That's not the way the world works. You can't take a problem that you have, put it into your own hands, and do something along those lines. But certainly, there is this large groundswell of support for Luigi Mangione, and it's a very important part of this case, and it's certainly something that we're keeping track of. We do have another question from a viewer, or a comment from a viewer, again on our YouTube page, and the question is, will we see live inside the courtroom? We are seeing live outside the courtroom. We have a couple different angles. This is the one where when he'll walk around the corner, he's going to, you see where that guy, the back of his head, the gentleman who had the New York State courts on the back of his uniform there, and the woman there, he's going to walk just in front of them. He's going to turn the corner. He's going to walk into the courtroom. This is Justice Gregory Caro's courtroom, New York Supreme Court Justice, who's presided over a few of the earlier elements of this. And he is presiding over this, but there will not be a live camera inside the courtroom. That's why we're outside. But we will have some still photos of what's going on. So the question is here, Dan, what's happening inside the courtroom? It's a good question. I want to go to our Slack feed, and we can check in with Michelle Ross. And Michelle is one of our reporters who was there early in the morning. And she says, number one, the Wi-Fi in the courtroom is working, and she's going to update us as things go along. She says that Thomas Dickey is inside, which is Karen Friedman Agnifilo, sitting with Karen Friedman Agnifilo. Dickey is Luigi's attorney in Pennsylvania. So you'll remember that in Pennsylvania is where eventually they tracked down Mangione inside that McDonald's, which is where this backpack was located. The backpack, of course, the center of the hearings today. So that's what's going on inside. Our Michelle Ross is in the courtroom as of 10 o'clock right now, 10:36. Nothing has started yet. When it does, you can believe we will bring you the updates. Because it's state court and it's not federal court, you are allowed to have your phones in there. And as long as they have Wi-Fi, they can send out updates as it's happening. But right now, it's not starting. So we're going to take a break here in just a second. But we have two shots we can show you. This one here is inside the courtroom, inside the hallway, outside the judge's courtroom. And then we can look at Live View 22. It's not the best shot. This is a different angle that we have, and you can see it's a little further down the hallway. Yeah, it's right there. That's a little further down the hallway, and so you can see the court officer with his arm resting against the barricade, because that is where Mangione will be walking in just a couple minutes. Has not happened yet, but when it does, you can believe that we will show it to you. This bigger shot that we're seeing there on the left, we're not going to drop that shot throughout the entire broadcast here, because we think it's important that we see this, because it's important to a lot of you. And you see my man right here, he's waving. So he's there you go. What's going on? He's not waving to us, but he is waiting for the shot. And as long as he's pointed in that direction, the shot's not going to happen. So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have a little bit more with Lauren Conlon, and we're going to hear from Arthur Aidala, one of the best legal minds that we have in the New York area, covered so many big cases. So we'll check back in with him too. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. It is 10:40. This is our special coverage of the Luigi Mangione hearing in State Supreme Court. We're waiting for him to enter the courtroom. We did have some questions about what's going on, because this was supposed to start about an hour ago, really. And so the question here is Luigi being late going to be a problem in the courtroom? We appreciate you reaching out and checking in on this. You know, court, if you're familiar with it, they do have sort of some of the timing that they go through. Sometimes they'll work through their lunch breaks. Sometimes they won't take those breaks. But certainly him being a little bit behind schedule is it could be two things. One, we're hearing that it's possible that there is some movement inside the courtroom with Mangione's attorneys and the prosecutors potentially meeting with the judge beforehand. Look, that's not uncommon. Those things happen all the time. Maybe it's a meeting off to the side so that they can work some things out so they don't have to bring it all out in court, work some things out with the timing. Here's what's going on with that. Here's what's going on with the schedule. That's a real possibility. I'm checking in with Michelle Ross, who is inside the courtroom right now. She's one of our top reporters. And so she's inside the courtroom right now, and she's trying to get an answer. I'm trying to get her to give me an answer on that. So it's a possibility. But as you can see right now, I mean, as you see people walking in who I don't believe are affiliated with the case, it doesn't look like he's coming in at the moment. But it's not like he's driving to the courtroom and he got stuck in traffic. He's coming from federal detention in Manhattan and is being transported here. Not Manhattan, but he's coming from federal detention here in the city and he's being transported here. So do we have another comment that we had that we were going to try to get to? I can set the scene just one more time. This is the high-profile case, potential major turn today. Lawyers for Mangione asking the judge to throw out what prosecutors call some of the most important evidence in the case: a notebook, a digital file, a potential murder weapon. Haley Fixler has been outside the courtroom all morning. I know she's been following this case very closely. Haley, it's almost been about a year, pretty much, since this happened. And I know, really, I mean, for the last 12 months, you've been tracking every single part of this case, doing such a great job for us. What are we thinking is going to be the focus today?
You know, as you mentioned, I think it's about what Mangione's legal team wants to do is throw out some key pieces of evidence. So we've talked about it, and it's really important to just kind of think about the gravity of what they're asking. So again, the statements before he got his Miranda rights is something that they're considering throwing out. And then also the notebook and the silencer that was found in the backpack when he was arrested. So these are really big things that tie him to the murder of Brian Thompson. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and what the judge decides. And it's also important to know that this is just the state case. So the lawyers are asking for this to be thrown out for both the state and the federal case. But this hearing today and for the next few days, potentially, this is just for the state case. There is going to be a hearing on this for the federal case. That's going to be in January. So it is possible that it could be different for each of the cases.
And Haley, you talk about the federal case and the state case. I know you reported on this earlier, but the state case, can you talk the difference between the possible penalties here? The state case is life in prison. I mean, what's sort of one of the differences there when it comes to what the possible outcome could be?
Yeah, so Mangione, it's important to note, has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. So if he is convicted, though, on the state charges, he could face life in prison. And if he's convicted on the federal charges, he could face the death penalty. So that's actually something that some of the protesters out here earlier this morning were protesting against. There was a truck with a billboard that was driving around saying no to the death penalty. So that is one of the things that people who are supporting Mangione are upset about, is the potential in a federal case of the death penalty.
Haley, thank you so much. So we have, a couple thousand people tuning in right now, but a lot of them weren't with us earlier in the show, this hour-long special that we have here on the Luigi Mangione hearing that's taking place in Lower Manhattan. So I want to play a piece of the sound that part of the interview that you've been reporting with all morning. So we're going to listen to that. This is about specifically what could and may not happen in court today. So let's take a listen to this legal expert.
Wait, Dan, before we go into that soundbite, if I can interrupt, we just got a message from Michelle Ross, who is inside the courtroom, and she said Mangione is now in the courtroom that he just entered.
Mangione has entered the courtroom, is what we're reporting this morning. So we've got these angles inside the hallway here and in the other hallway here. So let's, Haley, thank you very much. I want to stay with us just for a second, because this is Michelle Ross, who is inside the courtroom right now, along with a team of other reporters from all across the affiliates here, the networks, the local reporters, the bloggers, the supporters. So Michelle says that everyone is seated where they should be. Mangione was just uncuffed. He entered from a side door. He's wearing a suit and a striped shirt underneath. So, Haley, to bring you in here, photographers are taking those photos now. This is a surprise, but if you followed some of the discussions that these defense attorneys have made since the very beginning, it's that Mangione is being paraded around, and when he's moved and he's paraded in front of the cameras, in front of the media, and in front of others, sometimes cuffed, certainly in the prison garb, that it does make him appear already to be guilty. And so we've heard that there may be these conversations that were happening off to the side. Was this one of the things that was being discussed? That's possible. So Haley, what do we make of this? And then if you could talk a little bit more about what they are going to be discussing today when it comes to that evidence. I think you said some very critical things: the diary, the manifesto, the murder weapon, along those lines.
Yeah, Dan, just to go back to the clothing, that is something that his legal team had fought for. They wanted him to be wearing civilian clothing. So he was allowed certain number of pair of pants, certain amount of shoes and socks and everything to make all of these court appearances. So that is something that the legal team for Mangione had asked for and the judge had granted. So it's not really surprising that we're seeing him in civilian clothes today. Michelle did also say that Mangione was just uncuffed. So things should be progressing soon. So back to what I was discussing about earlier today and the evidence that his legal team wants to get thrown out. So we're talking about the fact that the defense says that the 27-year-old, that Mangione, he was not read his Miranda rights until about 20 minutes after police started talking to him. And that is where they are very concerned. They are arguing that anything he said to them before those Miranda rights were read should be thrown out because he's has the right to have those Miranda rights. And then the legal team also wants some of the items that were found in his backpack. So we're talking about a notebook that allegedly contained his plan to, quote, whack an insurance executive. They want that to be thrown out. And they also want the silencer found in that backpack to be thrown out.
Those are obviously significant pieces of evidence, and could be very crucial to obviously the state's case. Prosecutors in both cases, obviously it would apply to the federal case as well. So Haley, thank you very much. I know you've been with us all morning, and I know you'll be covering this case later on. Thursday and Friday is when this will also be taking place today, in addition to today. Haley, so just in that regard, as far as I understand, we don't think that there's going to be a decision today, because this is going to be a couple days that this will take place this week, right?
Yeah, we don't think this is going to be decided today. The judge has had assigned several days, anywhere from 5 to 7, to discuss this. He's going to hear arguments for both sides and ultimately, again, decide what can be used in this trial and what cannot.
Okay. Haley, thank you so much. We will obviously be checking back in with you throughout the week. Great job out there for us. We very much appreciate all the reporting that you've had. So here it is at 10:49 on a Monday morning. We've changed the angle of the camera here because the breaking news that we got just a short time ago is that Luigi Mangione has been brought into the courtroom. He was not marched or walked down the hallway. He was uncuffed as he entered the courtroom, or after he entered the courtroom. He entered from a side door. So you can see here that the exterior doors here, this is the doors leading into Gregory Caro's courtroom. So Caro, the Supreme Court, the justice here, the judge in this case, has already made a huge decision this morning. He decided, and you have to believe that this was something that the attorneys had discussed previous, because this wouldn't sort of just happen this way. But the judge decided, to the best of our knowledge, that Mangione would not be walked down the hallway. And so the images that we will see will come from the still photographers. And by still photographers, I mean, the newspaper guys, things along those lines, who are inside the courtroom, who will take those photos. Those photos will then be released. It's called the pool coverage. And then those will be released to the media a little later on. So this hearing is about to get underway. We should get some new details about what they're discussing and how things are going to proceed moving forward. We should get those in just a couple minutes, which gives us a real chance to take a quick break. So as we take a break, we've changed our camera angle because Mangione did not come down the hallway. He's already in court. But what we will get at some point are these attorneys, the family members, the supporters who will be leaving. And that's going to be significant when that happens, because obviously every element of this case is important to so many people who are tracking it all. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
I'm so sorry. I got such good interviews with those kiddos. Did you take the number down correctly? Yeah.
I haven't sent a text yet, but that's you, right?
Cool. Yep, perfect.
Yeah, this is a while ago, and I couldn't get a hold of it. Nobody would respond to me with it.
Right, so going forward, if you have any exclusives,
What's that?
they just,
Say what?
that's depending on what it is. So,
Yeah.
you never know.
I thought it was decent enough. I'm not really good at the whole tap selling to agencies and desks and stuff, so I didn't really know what I was doing.
You never know. Like,
But it was,
because people say some good stuff sometimes.
yeah, because the Sun took it for like 24 hours, non-exclusive. It's like $500, but it's not up online anymore. But I'll keep your. I'll text you, and then you'll have my information. I agreed to do a tap job recently. And
I think it's the one at like 7th Street.
All right, so setting the scene here again, this is 10:53. You're tuning into our special coverage of the Luigi Mangione hearing on Newsroom Live. We're taking a live look at the doors of the courtroom because we just got word a few minutes ago that Luigi Mangione is in the courtroom, and we do have some updates that we want to give you of what's already happening inside. Our Michelle Ross, one of our top reporters, is inside the courtroom. She's sitting on one of the benches inside there. So she's getting live updates as it's happening. So that's going to be key to letting everyone know about what's going on as we move forward with this day, which could be a very important day. She said that a supporter, a Mangione supporter in the back, tried to stand up to get a better view. Now, why would they do that? Because think about it. A lot of Mangione supporters are there because they want to see him. And he normally would come walking down that hallway. He'd come walking through the back of the court and into his position on the front, or in the front next to his attorneys at the front table. That didn't happen today, so they couldn't get a glimpse. What will happen today, a discussion about some of the key pieces of evidence. We spoke with one of the top legal minds here in New York, Arthur Aidala, on Good Day. We're not going to lose this shot that we have of the doors of the courtroom, so don't worry about that. In this little box where I am right here, that's where we're going to show the interview with Arthur. So let's take a listen. It's going to give you a real sense of what we're going to be talking about today.
It started with Harvey Weinstein's trial 5 years ago. It's all the true crime bloggers. It's not Fox and the regular affiliates.
So they take up all the seats in the courtroom?
Yeah, kind of. No, but what the court officers, the New York State court officers are fantastic. So there's like 2 rows for Fox and NBC, ABC, CBS, but then the rest of them are people who pay to be there to watch these hearings. Now, these hearings are very important, really very, very important. They're typical. They happen in every criminal case where it's appropriate to have them. The first one's going to be what's called a MAP hearing. And a MAP hearing, that's the name of the case, has to do with the evidence they've recovered from him. So it's got to do with his writings, which are important because it gives you his state of mind. It gives you what his intent is, and the gun itself, and the backpack, and everything else. So the judge is going to hear whether those were obtained the right way. The defense is saying, hey, you were allowed to grab the backpack, but you weren't allowed to look at it until you had a warrant, and they didn't have a warrant. So that's the first hearing. That's probably going to go on today and tomorrow. Then Wednesday's the judge's calendar day, so nothing will happen. And then Thursday, they do what's called a Huntley hearing. Now, Huntley hearing has to do with the statements that he gave to law enforcement when they grabbed him. And the argument there is, based on the body cam video, they waited 17 minutes. They spoke to him for 17 minutes before they read him his rights. And the real issue there is, was he free to leave or not? And the defense is planning on calling 2 witnesses that says there were like 20 cops around the McDonald's where he was. There was no way he could have gotten up and like, you know what? I don't really want to talk to you guys. I'm going to leave. Like, they were never going to let that happen. The judge, Judge Caro, he's a storied judge. His father was the judge. He's been on the bench a long time. He's already thrown out the death penalty possibilities in the case.
That was big when that happened, yeah.
And so this is going to be real lawyering with real lawyer. I know the prosecutor. He's been in the office, I think, almost 30 years. He's fantastic. Joel Seidman. I know Mark and Karen Ignifilo. There's Zach Entrada, who's another fantastic lawyer. Tenny Garagos. Mark Garagos is, it's a battle of the titans.
So basically, they're basically saying whatever was in his backpack, they needed a warrant for.
Correct.
Do you really need a warrant for that when?
Well, you do. But there's something also called inevitable discovery. So they were able to grab the backpack once they identified him as the person, as the suspect. But technically, you're supposed to have a backpack. But there are exceptions
warrants,
to the rule having to do with the safeties of the officers. So they're going to say, hey, we needed to know, did he have an explosive device in there? Because was he going to blow up the building?
Because he was wanted for murder at that point. So
Correct.
they may have thought, well, there could be a gun in this backpack. So they had this, it would be probable cause.
Yeah, and
something along those lines.
also exigent circumstances. We need to protect ourselves from the damage he could do. And they're also, the prosecutor's also going to say, like, Judge, okay, so we didn't get the warrant right there and then, but we were going to get it, but they needed to make sure they were safe. So they should be allowed to open up the backpack in this public place where they're not only protecting themselves, but everyone else in that McDonald's. God, but he could have had a button and blown everybody
All
up.
right, let me ask
It's
you
going to be
about
great.
the other evidence that was in that backpack, which was a diary where he talked about, going after somebody.
Now I know what I have to do.
Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, his defense attorneys don't want that made public because that could be a problem with the jury.
It goes right to his intent, what his frame of mind was at the time, and that he had thought it out and he had planned it out. So it's a premeditated act as opposed to a heat of battle. Look, God bless these lawyers. They're great lawyers. This is an uphill battle. To be as forthright.
One of the great legal minds, Arthur Aidala, one of the great legal minds here in New York. I know a lot of people tuning in because they want to see that shot of Luigi Mangione as he walks into the courtroom. He's already in. They brought him in a side door. They uncuffed him inside. We do have a photo from inside the courtroom. We just got this photo. This is breaking as it's happening. Let's take a look at this photo from inside the courtroom. It's going to be Luigi Mangione. You can see it there. That's coming in. Here we go. It's coming in. Almost. We almost got it in there. Okay, so let's see if we can get Mangione. We know he's in there. So what happens sometimes is there it is. There's the photo right there. All right, so this is Mangione in court today. This is just a few seconds ago. This photo was taken. We're almost out of time here on Newsroom Live. We are going to keep updating you throughout the rest of this morning. Critical here. Mangione is in a blazer, collared shirt. He's not wearing that other prison garb, the bright orange uniform that he'd been paraded down the hallway in before. They did not parade him down the hallway today. He's inside. He is uncuffed. This is a hearing about whether or not some of the evidence in the case that was initially seized in the backpack in Pennsylvania when he was first taken into custody will be allowed. So we will see what's going to happen. These are the first images that we have from inside the courtroom. You can see there is possibly some family members, certainly his legal team that is there beside him. And as we get more on this, we're going to have it. We'll keep this shot up there for just a couple minutes. We're going to sign off, right? We're going to sign off here. Okay, so we're going to sign off. And then for anyone who's tuning in on YouTube, TikTok, Fox Local, however you do it, we're going to put the shot of the courtroom back up from outside because at some point his attorneys are going to walk out. Family members may walk out. That'll be significant. Possible they will stop to talk. Sometimes they do it outside, but sometimes if you scream a question at them, they do it right there. So you can see this is our double box. That's Mangione in court today. That's somebody's forearm. Hopefully we turn back to the other way and we're going to get a shot of the door. But either way, we're going to continue our coverage. We appreciate you joining us. I know somebody said they got up early all the way on the West Coast because they wanted to see that shot of Mangione walking down the hallway. It didn't happen today. But we do have some information and we do have some breaking news that we will continue to update you on. So stay with us. You've been watching Newsroom Live. I'm Dan Bowens. We appreciate it.
saw.
Can you generate me a relatively detailed and sort of funny caption about Luigi Mangione supporters showing up? This is more than walking to see if I
Like, they pointed out to me earlier, like, you try to match his skill with radio when he I never even really talked to him all that much. I think he also always is looking down, so like, I'm always looking down, and I'm always trying to watch it. It's like, let's see what he's saying.
That's a big one. I think the thing with the truck driver, he's main focus. He comes over and says something as he walks away. I have no idea what that's a reason.
Yeah, because everyone's trying to get into the score.
Pick up every other word in this. Piecing together.
That's Judge Silvera's law attorney. I just walked in just so you know who she is. That's the big cheese. Huh? But that's her husband. That's, yeah. She got the phone line, yeah. She just left her alone? No. No, because they would call her in there, so I figured you tell her I'm in here before they get the words, and then somebody gets in trouble.
Sure.
Say, look out for us. You're up there all day? You're up there all day?
It's a Patrol 13 next morning.
You guys are on a rotation with, yeah, whatever. Very good now. Okay. Are you still making the move that I took